Welcome back, everyone. One of the key witnesses in the George Zimmerman murder trial under fire for the way she speaks. Listen to this.
And then I say, Trayvon, and then he said, why are you following me for? And then I heard a hard breath man come and say, what you doing around here?
Well, according to a Columbia University English professor, that's because the witness doesn't speak traditional English.
She was very articulate. I think people did understand her. She's speaking Black English, and a lot of people think Black English is just bad grammar, but that's like saying that a Cocker Spaniel is a bad kind of Saint Bernard. They're different kinds of English.
So is that right, or is it possibly offensive? Joining us now for a fair and balanced debate, Democratic strategist Jehmu Green and Brian Benjamin. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
By the way, we invited John McWhorter. He declined to come on the show today. Thank you so much to both of you for helping us analyze this. Let me start with you, Brian. What do you make of, there's so much to discuss here, what do you make of all the talk about the fact that the way she spoke was sort of its own news story, and then John McWhorter saying there is such a thing as Black English? Is that true?
Well, I don't think that there's such a thing as Black English, but I do think that she is speaking the language that she's used to. She grew up where she grew up, and she communicates the way she feels comfortable. And I think the most important thing is that she's honest and she's telling the truth, which I think everyone can agree that she's done that. But I mean, to make the point that somehow because of the way she communicates, she somehow is lesser than or is not a credible witness, I think is unfair.
Jehmu?
Well, I agree with Brian that she was credible, she was honest, she was sincere. But I think this issue has gotten a little bit bigger, especially with John McWhorter's statements, because yes, he's a linguist, anthropologist, historians, they will say Black English is a language. It's not a language that's going to get you to graduate from high school, to go to college, to find a job, or to keep a job. And we have to stop making excuses, in a sense, for this type of conversation that is happening in our communities. I think we all too often have leaders like John McWhorter talking about the history and talking about where it comes from, but like the slave trade, where this language is based from, it should be a thing of the past. And I think it should be okay for people who have a platform, especially African Americans in the media who have a platform, to say this is unacceptable. This is not how our children should be learning. This is not the best way to move them forward.
And I assume that you'll take hits for saying that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Jesse Jackson did when he called it, I think, something like, garbage dialect.
Well,
Brian,
I don't agree with that point. I mean, I do think, what I disagree with is calling Black English, because that is just too general. But the fact that they're Caribbeans who they have their own kind of dialect that they speak. Various people speak the way they communicate the way they communicate. The question is, can they communicate appropriately in the job force? And as long as she can do that, I think it's perfectly fine for her to communicate in whatever way is comfortable for her.
What about the whole thing becoming kind of a sideshow? It's taking the focus away from what's actually happening at the trial and whether or not it's guilty or innocent. Now we're talking about the way she speaks.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been accused of being racist for addressing the way she speaks. And I think John McWhorter has gone on, he didn't want to come here, but he's gone on CNN, he's gone on NBC and had conversations about these are racist. What he's forgetting to say is that most of the people who went after her, many of those commentators on Twitter, were actually African American. So this whole conversation is also another way of just throwing the R word out there. He's a racist, she's a racist, you're a racist. That shuts down conversation. And we're not going to proceed in dealing with racial anxiety, dealing with our implicit bias if we keep just throwing that R word out there. This was something that, a language that, yeah, lots of people hear this because lots of people listen to rap. It's not just Black people who buy rap music. So I think white people understand it. But again, is this the best way to move this child forward with a profession? No.
Interesting discussion. Jehmu and Brian, thanks much for your time.
Thank you.